Okay, so this is the in-service on the Patient Bill of Rights. You want to make sure that you go through and read all of the slides on this presentation. If you have any questions, you can give Latanya a call at the office at 972-270-2000. The Patient Bill of Rights. Healthcare rights. Rights are very important to Americans. Our country was founded on the belief that every individual is entitled to certain things, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we don't lose our rights just because we get sick, need home care, or move into a nursing home or assisted living facility. Wherever we go, our rights go with us. However, when people become patients, it's common for them to feel like they are powerless over what happens to them. That's why it's so important for your patients to learn about their healthcare rights. This helps them to know they will be treated as individuals, understand they can make their own medical decisions, realize that they do have power because of the important role they play in their own health. While there are a few differences between the rights of a hospital patient, a nursing home or assisted living resident, and a home care client, you'll find that the basic list of healthcare rights is the same for everyone. Healthcare responsibilities. Isn't it true that there is a responsibility to go along with every right? For example, when teenagers gain the right to drive a car, they also take on the responsibility of driving under the speed limit. Or when people have the right to vote in elections, they must be responsible for learning how to complete a ballot. Healthcare rights are no different. Healthcare requires a team effort between patients, families, and healthcare workers. It's not enough for a patient to sit back and say, I know my rights. Now take care of me and make it well. Patients have responsibilities too. Federal and state laws. The first Patient Bill of Rights was approved by the American Hospital Association in February of 1973. The Patient Bill of Rights used by your organization today probably contains a similar list of rights. In 1987, the Nursing Home Reform Act was passed. This is a federal law that outlines certain rights for residents of nursing homes, especially those who are covered by Medicare and Medicaid. This law also requires each state to have its own rules about patient rights. The state law can be tougher than the federal law, if desired. If a nursing home fails to comply with these laws, it may not be able to accept residents who have Medicare or Medicaid coverage. Congress is currently debating a new law about patient rights. This new law covers areas such as healthcare decisions, clinical trials, and affordable health insurance. People in the U.S. Congress have been fighting over this new law for some time. Some say there's no way to make health insurance better and cheaper at the same time. There are three basic goals for every healthcare bill of rights: to help patients be treated as individuals by healthcare workers and insurance companies, to encourage a strong relationship between patients and their healthcare workers, and to show patients that they play a huge role in their own health. Okay, we'll take a second time to laugh. At age 83, Grandpa was admitted to the hospital for the first time. "What's this?" he asked as he held up the bell cord they had fastened to his pillow. "That's the bell, Grandpa," I replied. He pulled it several times, then remarked, "I don't hear it ringing." "Oh, it doesn't ring," I explained. "It turns on a light in the hall for the nurse." "Well," he replied indignantly, "if the nurse wants a light on in the hall, she can turn it on herself." Patient right number one. Patients have the right to information. All patients have the right to receive current information about their diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis. This includes learning about any risk involved in a particular treatment and what the alternatives might be. They must also be told how long a treatment will take and if a certain treatment is experimental. They have the right to refuse the treatment if they don't want it. They have the right to know the identity of healthcare workers involved in their care. They also have the right to be told if any of their caregivers are students or trainees. They have the right to know how much a particular treatment or service will cost and how much of this cost will cut out of their pocket. And they have the right to know the only exception to this right is an emergency situation. For example, let's say that Bob is in a car accident. He's rushed to the emergency room, unconscious and bleeding badly. In this case, doctors can go ahead and perform any treatments or surgeries necessary to save Bob's life. They don't have to wait until they've explained the treatment to Bob or until Bob has given permission. Along with this right, patients have a responsibility to tell the healthcare team about their medical history, including any past illnesses, hospitalizations, and medications, and they have a responsibility to let someone know when they experience new health problems or when old health problems start up again. Ways to meet this patient right. As you go through your workday, be sure to help your patients understand any information you give them. If your patient does not speak English, let your supervisor know that an interpreter may be needed. Ask your patients if they understand their health care rights. Remember, if state or JCO surveyors interview your patient, they will ask the same question, and they will expect the patient to understand his or her rights. Wear your name tag every day and remember to identify yourself when you enter a patient's room. And let your supervisor know if your patients are asking questions about their illnesses, treatments, or medications. A nurse or doctor can answer those important questions. Patient right number 2, the right to respect. All patients have the right to expect their healthcare workers to be considerate and respectful. They have the right to receive care without discrimination because of their race, culture, religion, age, gender, or physical disability. They have the right to expect their healthcare workers to be honest and ethical. They have the right to remain free from any abuse or neglect. They have the right to be allowed to live a high quality of life, free from unnecessary physical or chemical restraints, and they have the right to be able to keep and use their personal belongings and have those belongings treated carefully and respectfully. Along with this right, patients have a responsibility to show respect for every member of their healthcare team, regardless of the race, color, age, sex, or religion of each healthcare worker. And they have the responsibility to be considerate of any other patients who may be close by. Ways to meet this patient right. As you go through your workday, be sure to show sensitivity to the beliefs and needs of every patient. For example, let's say you are a home health aide assigned to care for Ms. Green, who is a vegetarian. You can show your respect to Ms. Green by learning about vegetarian diets and by fixing her nutritious vegetarian meals. Address your patients the way they prefer. To be safe, call your patients Mr. or Miss, and unless they ask you to call them by their first name avoid using terms like honey or sweetie. It may offend some of your patients. Don't touch your patients' belongings unless it's necessary. If you do handle their belongings, be careful and put the items back where you found them. Do your best to go along with your patient's personal preferences every day, such as letting them decide which clothes they like to wear or which foods they like to eat. Patient right number 3, the right to participate. All patients have the right to make decisions about their own care. They have the right to change their minds about health care treatments and services. They have the right to refuse care after being told what might happen if they do refuse. And they have the right to an advance directive if they want one, including a living will or a health care power of attorney. Along with this right, patients have a responsibility to ask for more information if they don't understand something, go to all scheduled doctor's appointments, follow the plan of care that they help create, and give your workplace a copy of any living will or other advance directive. Ways to meet this patient right. As you go through your workday, be sure to honor any advance directive. For example, if your patient has a do not resuscitate order, make sure you know what to do if he or she stops breathing during your care. Encourage your patients to take their medication as scheduled. Help your patients follow any exercise plans that have been set up for them by a physical or occupational therapist. Allow your patients to refuse care if they wish, but be sure to document the situation and let your supervisor know. Keep in mind that a patient's medical insurance may have rules about paying for care that the patient keeps refusing. Encourage your patients to participate in their personal care. Even if they aren't strong enough to bathe themselves, they can probably wash their face or comb their hair. The more they can do for themselves, the more independent they will remain. Patient right number 4, the right to privacy. All patients have the right to expect confidentiality from every healthcare worker who provides care. Review their own healthcare records if they want to. If they read something in the record they don't understand, they have the right to have it explained to them. Expect privacy during care. Be allowed to visit privately with family or friends. Have the right They have the right to have private telephone conversations, and they have a right to receive their personal mail. Along with this right, patients have a responsibility to share any personal information that has an effect on their health, store their valuables in a safe place, and respect the privacy of their healthcare workers. Way to meet this patient right. As you go through your workday, be sure to respect your patient's privacy during personal care. For example, keep a sheet over your patient during a bed bath, or close the bathroom door while your patient uses the toilet. Knock before entering a patient's room or bathroom. Keep all patient information confidential, including information that you write or say. No one needs to hear about your patients except other members of the healthcare team. Don't share confidential information about patients with your friends or family, even if it seems like an interesting thing to talk about. Avoid talking about your clients even in the hallways, elevator, or lunchroom at work. You might accidentally violate a patient's right to confidentiality. Remember that no one outside of your healthcare team has the right to know who your patients are or what is wrong with them. Give your patients privacy when they have visitors or when they are speaking on the telephone. Patient right number 5, the right to quality care. All patients have the right to expect that the same healthcare workers will care for them every day as much as possible. They have the right to be treated like an individual. They have the right to expect that their healthcare workers will keep them safe from harm or injury. They have the right to get regular exercise as tolerated. They have the right to receive the same quality of care, regardless of their ability to pay their healthcare bills. Along with this right, patients have the responsibility to recognize the impact of their own lifestyle choices. For example, Miss Kelly needs to realize that all the medications in the world may not help her diabetes if she continues to eat sweets and keep her insulin shots and skip her insulin shots. Follow the safety rules of your facility. Remember that every patient has the right to quality care. This means that everyone needs to think about how their rights affect other people. For example, Mr. Wilson has a roommate in the nursing home. His right to watch TV in his room affects his roommate's right to have it quiet. Ways to meet this patient right. As you go through your workday, be sure to provide a safe environment for your patients. Help them avoid falls and other injuries. Stick to a routine with your patients as much as possible. This helps them to know what to expect and when to expect it. Keep your promises. For example, if you tell your patient that you'll help her to bed at 10, then be there on time. Encourage your patients to exercise regularly. Help them take walks or perform range of motion exercises. Any activity that helps them keep their muscles strong and flexible. Keep learning new skills that you can use on the job, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you don't know how to do something. Patient right number 6, the right to make a complaint. All patients have the right to make suggestions or complaints about their care without being afraid of consequences. For example, patients can't be discharged simply because they're grumpy or they make frequent complaints. Patients have the right to switch to a different healthcare facility or agency if they want to. They have the right to know the healthcare organization's policies for handling a complaint. They have the right to have a prompt and fair response to any complaint. And they have the right to take their complaint to the state if they are not satisfied with how organization handles it. Along with this right, patients have a responsibility to cooperate with the rules of your workplace and consider the rights of other patients and or healthcare workers. Ways to meet this patient right. As you go through your workday, be sure to make sure your clients know how to make a complaint. Remember, we can all learn from patient suggestions and complaints. They help us develop our customer service skills. Encourage your patients to tell you when they are unhappy with or worried about their care. The more your patients come to you, the more your patients come to trust you, the less likely they are to take legal action when problems arise. Stay calm if your supervisor tells you that a patient has made a complaint. Let your supervisor hear all the facts about the situation, and you may be asked to document the incident. Stick to the facts. And to avoid complaints, help every patient in need, not just those who are assigned to you. It violates patients' rights to ignore a patient just because he or she is not one of yours. It might also be considered neglect. Remember, abuse and neglect are not just violation of patients' rights, they are also illegal. Review your patient's plan of care frequently to make sure you are providing the proper care. Additional rights for residents. Keep in mind that residents of nursing homes and assisted living facilities have the same rights they used to have when they lived in their own homes. This includes having family members visit anytime 24 hours a day, refusing to see a particular visitor, managing and spending their own money or deciding who will manage it for them, bringing in their own furniture, wearing their own clothes, participating in the activities of their choice, including religious observations, visiting with their spouse in private, sending and receiving personal mail, leaving the nursing home to go shopping, run errands, or visit friends, depending on state rules. They may also have the right to leave the facility overnight, moving freely about the facility without restraints, as long as they aren't a danger to themselves or others. Note: nursing home and assisted living residents need to balance their rights with those of their fellow residents. For example, Mr. Jones has the right to move about freely, but that doesn't mean he can enter another resident's room without permission. They also need to follow the safety rules set up by the nursing home for all residents. For example, if the facility has a designated smoking area, then Mrs. Winters must not smoke in her room. Okay, time to laugh. Two elderly women in the nursing home were interested in two elderly gentlemen living in the same home, but try as they might, they couldn't get the attention of the men. Then one of the women had a brilliant idea. Why don't we strip off our clothes and streak past them in the TV room? The second woman agreed that this might work. The very next day they mustered up their courage, took off their clothes, and ran past the two men as fast as they could, giggling all the way. One man turned to the other and said, "Joe, was that Irma that just ran past us?" The other one said, "I think so, but what the heck was she wearing?" The other one said, "I don't know, but it sure needs ironing." Okay, additional rights for home care clients. Home care clients have the right to receive care in their own homes, but not if it's unsafe. For example, if Mr. Brown's medication needs to be refrigerated and his home has no refrigerator and no electricity, then home care is not the best choice for him. Be sure to report any safety problems you notice with your home care clients. All adults have the right to choose where and how they want to live, even if that environment seems unsafe or unpleasant to us. Let's say that Mr. Brown's daughter, who has a refrigerator, invites him to live with her while he receives home care. As long as Mr. Brown is competent to make his own decisions, no one can force him to move in with his daughter. You might also have a client whose home is infested with roaches. If that were your home, you'd probably want to get rid of the bugs immediately, but it may not bother your client at all. You can't force her to have her home exterminated. Home care clients have the right to be told about the State Home Health Hotline, a telephone number they can call with questions or complaints about home care agencies. Your home health clients also have the right to be told what to do in an emergency. Should they call the agency, page the nurse, call the doctor, call the police? Be sure your clients know how to handle problems during those hours when you are not there. Home health clients have the right to ask for a certain caregiver. For example, Mrs. Brown likes Tony to be her aide because he is strong and she feels safe when he helps her transfer to her wheelchair. But Mrs. Tucker asked the agency not to send Tony because she feels uncomfortable having a male help her with personal care. Home care clients have special responsibilities too. Your home health clients are responsible for providing a safe environment for you and the other members of your healthcare team. If you feel unsafe in a client's home for any reason, discuss the issue with your supervisor immediately. If you feel physically threatened, leave the client's home right away and call your supervisor from the nearest telephone. Most home care clients are required to be under the care of a physician during the time they receive home care. The physician signs your agency's plan of care. Your clients have a responsibility to go to all scheduled appointments. Home care clients must notify your agency if they are not going to be at home at the time of a scheduled visit. Tips for supporting patient rights. Listen to your patients when they tell you what they need. Remember that each patient is different. If they have the same health problems, make an effort to treat every patient as an individual. Remember that the patient's family may want to be involved in making healthcare decisions. This is okay if the patient wants family members to participate, but keep in mind that the patient has the right to privacy too. Make it a habit to explain what you are going to do with the patient before you do it. Your patients will be better prepared and more able to cooperate if they know what's going on. For example, explain to Mr. Wilson that you're going to help him change position in bed before you pull down his blanket and sheet. Remember that it's possible for strangers to use illegal electronic devices to listen on cell phone conversations. If you are talking to your supervisor about a patient over a cell phone, don't use the patient's last name. If you travel from patient to patient during your workday, be careful to keep your patient documentation private. Don't let your next patient see what you wrote about your previous patient. Don't gossip about your patients with anyone, even other members of the healthcare team. It's not necessary to share personal information about a patient unless it makes a difference to the patient's health. For example, let's say your patient, Mrs. Parker, told you a secret that many years ago she had an affair. This information has no impact on her current health and is no one else's business. Be honest with your patients and their family members at all times. If they ask you a question that you can't answer, try saying, "I don't know, but I'll check with my supervisor." But be sure to follow through by discussing the issue with your supervisor. Put your own needs aside during the workday. Your job is to put your patient's needs first. By doing this, you'll be protecting their health care rights and showing your patients that you are truly concerned about them. Encourage your patients to tell you or your supervisor about a complaint first, so that you have a chance to make things better. But remember, all patients have the right to take their complaint to the state if they are unhappy with how your workplace handles the situation. As a nursing assistant, you have the right to be paid for the work you perform, work in a safe environment, have proper supervision and regular evaluations of your work, participate in in-service programs that help develop your skills, and be treated with respect by patients and coworkers. More tips for supporting patient rights. Avoid using slang words that your patients may not understand. This includes medical slang and abbreviations. For example, don't say, "Mrs. Williams, you need extra fluids to flush out that UTI of yours." Or, "Mr. Matthews, you'll get a decube if you sit in that chair all day." Miss Williams may not know that a UTI is short for urinary tract infection, and Mr. Matthews may not know that decube is short for decubitus, or that a decubitus is a bed sore. If your patients don't understand what you're saying, they'll have a hard time cooperating with you. For patients who don't speak English, try communicating with pictures. Cut out magazine photos of personal care items like a toothbrush, toothpaste, comb, shampoo, and a bathtub. Have your patients point to the items they want to get help with next. Help your patients have the best possible quality of life by number 1, not smoking, number 2, staying at a normal weight, 3, exercising regularly, 4, not abusing alcohol, 5, getting enough rest, and 6, seeing their doctors regularly. These are good health tips for all of us. Encourage independence in your patients by letting them make decisions about their care every day. Never threaten your patients to get them to cooperate. For example, it's wrong to say, "If you don't take your bath right now, you can't watch TV this afternoon." Don't force care on a patient if you know the patient will be better off. For example, you can't force a patient to eat his lunch even if you are worried that he has been losing too much weight lately. Be sure to document the fact that the patient refuses to eat. Balance your loyalty to your coworkers with the safety and well-being of your patients. Report any violations of patient rights that you witness. Make sure you speak up for patients who can't or won't speak up for themselves. Because you spend so much time with your patients, you have the opportunity to notice if their needs are being met. They are counting on you. What's the bottom line? Make sure you've read the Patient Bill of Rights for your workplace. And to protect your patients' rights, treat them the way you would want to be treated if you were in their place.